Let me ask you a simple question. If you're 30 years old right now, how do you think you're doing financially? Do you feel like you're ahead of the curve, right on track, or secretly falling behind while everyone else seems to be doing better? Because if we're being honest, most people in their 30s have absolutely no idea what normal actually looks like financially. You might see someone your age buying a house, another friend posting vacation photos from Europe, someone else casually mentioning their investment portfolio. And it can create this feeling like you're the only person still trying to figure things out. But here's the truth. Most people are comparing their behind the scenes financial reality to someone else's highlight reel. So today, I want to break down the actual financial reality of the average 30-year-old in America, the real numbers, the real pressures, and why so many people in their 30s feel like they're working harder than ever, but still struggling to build real financial stability. Because once you understand what's really going on, a lot of things suddenly start to make sense. My name is James, and I spend way too much time thinking about the mechanics to make every dollar work hard and grow for me. If you're someone who feels like you're working hard, making decent money, but still wondering why your savings aren't growing and your expenses keep rising, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now, let's start with something that has quietly shaped the financial lives of millions of people entering their 30s: student loan debt. According to recent federal data, the average 30-year-old with student loans still owes roughly $42,000. And that's not what they originally borrowed. That's what remains after years of payments. For many borrowers, that translates into a monthly payment of around $400 to $450 every single month. Now think about that for a second. $400 per month. That's $4,800 per year. Over a decade, that's nearly $50,000 of after-tax income being directed toward debt repayment. And that money could otherwise be going towards saving for a home, building an emergency fund, or investing for retirement. But here's where the situation becomes even more complicated. Many borrowers have switched to income-driven repayment plans. These plans lower the monthly payment based on income, which can help people manage their budgets in the short term, but sometimes those payments don't even fully cover the interest accumulating on the loan, which means despite making payments every single month, the loan balance can actually grow. Imagine making payments for years and seeing the total debt increase instead of decrease. That kind of situation can feel incredibly frustrating, and it has real consequences. It can delay major life decisions, buying a home, starting a family, even switching careers, because debt changes how people think about risk. But student loans are only one part of the financial picture. The next piece is something almost everyone has interacted with at some point: credit cards. The average 30-year-old carries around $4,000 in credit card debt. And while that number might not sound overwhelming at first, the real issue is the interest rate. Credit cards today average roughly 20% to 22% interest, which means a $4,000 balance could easily cost $800 to $900 per year in interest alone. And here's the important detail. For many people, this isn't the result of reckless spending. It's often the result of unexpected expenses: car repairs, medical bills, moving costs, or simply the reality that expenses sometimes exceed income for a short period of time. In many cases, credit cards have quietly become the backup financial safety net when someone doesn't yet have a fully built emergency fund. And this brings us to one of the biggest financial pressures facing people in their 30s today: housing. If we go back one generation, home ownership in your late 20s or early 30s was fairly common. But today, the situation looks very different. The home ownership rate for adults under 35 has dropped significantly, and a large majority of people in their early 30s are still renting. Not necessarily because they want to, but because the numbers simply don't work. The median home price in the United States has climbed to around $500,000. If someone wanted to purchase a home at that price with a traditional 20% down payment, they would need about $100,000 upfront. For most people in their 20s and early 30s, saving $100,000 while paying rent, student loans, and everyday expenses is extremely difficult. And even if someone manages to gather that down payment, mortgage payments at current interest rates can easily exceed $2,000 to $2,500 per month. For someone earning around the median income for their age group, roughly $55,000 to $60,000 per year, that mortgage could consume well over half of their monthly take-home pay, which is why many people remain in the rental market. But rent has also been increasing significantly in many cities. It's not uncommon for renters to spend 35% to 40% of their income on housing alone. And when that much income goes toward rent, it becomes much harder to save for a down payment, which creates a difficult cycle. Rent prevents saving, lack of savings prevents buying, and the cycle continues. Now, this leads us to one of the most surprising statistics about people in their 30s, savings. Financial advisors often suggest that by age 30, someone should have the equivalent of their annual salary saved for retirement. So if someone earns $60,000 per year, the guideline would suggest having roughly $60,000 saved. But when we look at the real numbers, the gap between theory and reality becomes very clear. More than half of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing money, and the average retirement account balance for people in their 30s sits around $14,000. Now let's put that number into perspective. If someone had $14,000 invested and followed the traditional retirement withdrawal rule of about 4% per year, that money would produce about $560 annually. That's about $46 per month. Obviously, that's not enough to support a retirement, but it highlights something important. Many people simply haven't had the time or financial flexibility yet to build substantial savings. Think about the typical financial timeline. Someone graduates college around age 22. The early years of their career often come with lower entry-level salaries. Rent is one of their largest expenses. Student loan payments may begin shortly after graduation, and during this period, many people are simply trying to establish financial stability, which means saving aggressively for retirement sometimes gets pushed further down the priority list, and this creates what I like to call the financial expectation gap. The advice people hear often assumes ideal conditions: stable income, low debt, affordable housing. But the economic environment that many people in their 20s and 30s face today looks very different. Costs have increased. Housing has become more expensive. Education debt is more common. And wages have not always kept pace with these changes. So if you're 30 and feel like you're slightly behind financially, there's an important perspective to keep in mind. You're not the only one navigating these challenges. In fact, millions of people are facing the exact same financial pressures. And while that doesn't solve the problem overnight, understanding the reality of the situation can help you make better long-term decisions. Because the goal isn't to compare yourself to unrealistic expectations. The goal is to understand where you are today and start building a financial system that improves your situation year by year. Small improvements over time can lead to meaningful results: reducing debt, increasing savings, investing consistently. Those are the things that gradually shift someone's financial trajectory. And the sooner someone begins focusing on those fundamentals, the more powerful the long-term results can become. Because even though the financial environment may be more challenging today than it was for previous generations, the core principles of building wealth still work. They just require patience, consistency, and a clear understanding of how the system actually operates. And once you understand that system, you can start making decisions that move you closer to financial independence over time.